Hey Jesper. Um, Actually, this is a great problem that you brought up, is moving the um, current room field from the game class to the player class. Um, it's a classic refactoring problem. In fact, let's see, I have this, I'm going to send you this link. This is sourcemaking.com. They have a whole bunch of really good stuff on design patterns and refactoring. So refactoring, they talk about in the book, is just, you know, and there's a lot of good discussion here on it on the website. So I'm not going to go into detail on what it is. It's basically like the basic idea of refactoring is modifying your code without modifying the code's behavior, so that it's easier to make modifications. Okay. All right, so there are a couple of refactorings in here that are really well worth looking over. Is this move field and move method, about moving features between objects. And in fact, all this stuff is really good, but this move field is especially pertinent to what we're concerned with right now, moving the current room field from the game class into the player class. Okay, so let's look at this move field page here. Before you do any kind of refactoring, you always want to make sure that you've tested out your program and that it works the way you want it to work. And then you start saying, okay, now how do I, divvy up the responsibility in a better way and stuff like that, okay? But on each one of these refactorings, it's nice because they show you the general idea. So in our case, our class 1 is the game class, and our class 2 is the player class. And we want to move to the state from, the game class contains the current room field. We want to switch over so that our player class contains the current room field, okay? They talk about the motivation. This is really good stuff here. Moving state and behavior between classes is the very essence of refactoring. As the system develops, you find the need for new classes and the need to shuffle responsibilities around. And that's exactly what happened with Zuul, right? We came up with this player class and then said, oh, you know what? The player should be the one responsible for knowing what room he's in, right? And so that's what we're trying to make happen right now. And they talk about other motivations and stuff like that. And then they go into this mechanics section. So for all of these refactorings, there's a motivation there's like this introductory piece, there's a motivation section, and there's a mechanics section, which is how you kind of walk through step by step to do it. Okay. So the first thing it says here is if the field is public, use encapsulate field. Okay. And the idea behind encapsulating a field, they talk about field encapsulation in the book too, but it is to make a field private and provide accessors. And the reason why you do that is that, again, it has to do with responsibility-driven programming. The class that contains the field is the one that's responsible for maintaining that data. You might at some point decide that, I have this string name, and right now I'm storing it in a field, but I might decide later on that I want to calculate the name, or I want to get the name from a remote database or something like that. The other classes shouldn't affect the other classes, right? You shouldn't have to rewrite other classes if you decide to generate the name in a different way. Okay, what you want to do is you have these public methods that the other classes use. So the other classes use getName to get the name from that class, right? And all it does at this point is return the name. But again, like I said, at some point, if you decide to calculate the name or whatever, you just change this method. But all the other classes are still just using getName. So you don't have to go in and make changes to all the other classes whenever you change the way this name gets generated. And the same idea with setName, right? The other classes just use setName, and then this class decides what to do with that value that gets passed in for setting the name. Okay. So, so we do have actually we do have a private current room field, but let's just make sure we have the accessor. So I see you started writing an accessor. Yeah, an accessor here. Let's leave this guy in, and again, this is in the game class where we eventually want to move this stuff all over to the player class, right? But for now, this is what we're going to do as our first step. You really just need to say return current room, and that'll return it to the current room. And just, you know, as a you know, a general strategy, the way this stuff generally works is we make the accessors and mutators public. Okay, copy. Because again, the idea is the field's private and the accessors are public, because we might change the way that we you know, store or retrieve this stuff. Let's say set current room to room. Okay, so for now we're just doing this. Current room equals room. Okay. Yoink and compile, that works. Okay. Compile and test. Well, we're not really, let's see. Do we want to, I'm wondering if maybe the strategy should be to, okay, so here's an example. We have an account class, and we compile and test. See, one thing we could do is we could actually encapsulate right now all the uses of current room wherever we have current room. And then, well, let's see. I just want to read ahead a little bit. So compile the target, determine how to reference the target object from the source. Okay, so we're going to have to reference the target object and then remove the field in the source class and replace all references. Okay, so why do they want us to encapsulate here? If you're likely to be moving the methods that access it frequently, or if a lot of methods access the field, you may find it useful to self-encapsulate the field. Creating, getting, and setting methods for the field and use only those to access the field. Oh, okay. When it comes to accessing fields, there are two schools of thought. One is that within the class where the variable is defined, you should access the variable freely. The other school is that even within the class, you should always use accessors. Debates between the two can be heated. So, okay, so we could go different ways. It looks like what they're saying is, what we could do is we could say within the game class, and there you could see arguments for that. What we could do is within the game class, every place where we have current room, and there are 15 instances of it, we can use the setters that we have right now. And you could just say set current room attic. And I think that's the method I'm going to follow right now. Again, there are different schools of thought on this. But, and then we can say get current room here. But I think actually I like this idea because it'll save us some trouble later on. Push get current room. I think it's going to make the whole move a little easier, and I think you'll see that when we move on here. Let's find the next current room. So this says set. That's our set current room. So every place now where you retrieve the information, so basically set current room is when you're assigning a value to the current room, right? So wherever you're saying current room equals whatever, like here we had current room equals next room, that's when you're using set current room. And then whenever you're just plain old using the value, like here we were just saying push current room, that's where you're going to use your get, right? Because that's how you get the value of the current room. So let's see. So here we have another example, see, of an assignment. So this is another set. And next, okay, so here we're using the current room. We're calling a method on the current room. So we're going to say get current room. So we're not, there's an assignment here, right? But we're not assigning to, we're not changing the value of current room here. We're using the value of current room to get the item, okay? So here. Okay, and here again, we're using the value, we're using the current room object and calling a method on it. So if you're calling a method on the current room object, you're going to say get current room. We have another one here. Get current room. Do we have current room place else? Okay, get current room. Get current room. So we want to make sure we're doing this everywhere because we're eventually going to move this field completely out of here. Except in the accessors, right? We need to have current room. This is where we're actually changing the value. Okay. So I think we've done it every place. So the next step is compile and test. And I'll leave that to you. We just want to make sure we compile the whole thing, play it out, make sure we haven't broken anything. And then in the next video, we'll pick up where we left off.